Change is good. WFAN is going to a lot different when Mike Francesa leaves his afternoon show next month. It's also going to look a lot different with the addition of 3 distinctly younger and more diverse personalities than Francesa could ever hope to be on his own. WFAN is replacing the sports pope, who leaves his show in December, with the intriguing trio of Bart Scott, Maggie Gray and Chris Carlin, moves that will immediately make the fan a little less white, male and conservative than it has been. For the most part, the station is primarily populated during the day by older white guys who share similar political beliefs. From the morning show with Boomer Esiason, through the midday with Joe Bonino and Evan Roberts, into the afternoons with Francesa, WFAN typically carries personalities that share a lot of the same opinions, and a lot of the same backgrounds. The only difference, really, is the volume they deliver hot takes with. In Francesa's case, those ideas generally skew only one way and he represents only his own demographic. Examples of these kinds of takes: earlier this year, Francesa ignited a firestorm when, on his WFAN show, he said that women are not capable of coaching male pro athletes. A year ago, he used time on his show to support Donald Trump and used WFAN airtime to tell listeners that candidate Trump was not racist nor East, and just like morning show host Esiason, Francesa also never supported NFL anthem protests. He never backed Colin Kaepernick. He does not believe the NFL blackballed Kaepernick, and he's said signing Kaepernick might not be worth the headache. See.com. In many ways, Francesa, though he is a legend, has grown stale and tired in recent years. His belittling of callers is old. His opinions are largely that of an older generation. In replacing him with Scott, Gray, and to a lesser extent Carlin, WFAN is clearly taking steps toward creating a more diverse. The fan is shifting away from a one-man show to a 3-headed afternoon sports gab session that promises to feature far different insight, opinion and energy than Francesa has been able to muster on his own. It is a wise business decision, and might be highly entertaining. In Gray, listeners are getting a smart, strong woman who has never been afraid to take on the NFL and issues like domestic violence. WFAN has not been unkind to women. Sherry Ross was a pioneer doing Devil's Radio on the station, and Susan Waldman helped to build the station. Add female voices like Kim Jones and Ann Ligori to that list too. It's just that mostly in its history, WFAN has been dominated by male voices. Gray's ideas, her background and her insight figure to be the greatest departure from Francesa's bluster. In today's culture, at a time when ism in business is being exposed as rapidly as racism in society, a female voice brings necessary perspective and positions Francesa could never touch on his own. According to reports, Gray was offered the job only after Kim Jones and Chris Sims turned it down, but her addition could be a huge win for fan listeners. 3 years ago, amid the Ray Rice fiasco, Gray said, "The beloved shield the NFL seeks to protect, it's bloody and bruised, just like Janae Rice, Cassandra Perkins and all the other women who suffered in silence at the hands of an abuser." In a Sports Illustrated video under the headline "Why I Don't Feel as Comfortable Covering the NFL," Gregory, "Pay on up now." Compare that with Francesa's belief that women like Becky Hammon are inferior to men in their ability to communicate, strategize and motivate. Night and day. WFAN, for the most part, typically has not been supportive or even understanding of NFL anthem protests. Francesa, in particular, has said they are disruptive to the game. Contrast that with Scott's beliefs that Kaepernick has been blackballed, and why he says the demonstrations are necessary in the first place. Scott, the former Can't Wait Jets linebacker, has been highly entertaining and edgy at times in his WFAN cameos. He and Esiason always worked well together, and he also brings a set of beliefs that runs counter to the Francesa-Esiason block. A great example of this unfolded on Inside the NFL last year when they discussed anthem protests. "They don't own me, and they don't own my thoughts," Scott said of NFL owners, in response to Esiason's belief that players should demonstrate on their own time and not on the field. "I represent 2 demographics, and I tell you what, if I was looking for something in the dark, I'm not going to strike a match, I'm going to take a spotlight and shine it," he said. And what's the spotlight that these players have? They have NFL football field or the basketball arena to really shine a light on the issue of the day, because, guess what? I'm sorry for making you uncomfortable, but when I leave the stadium, I'm seen as a threat as well. I can remember going back to college to get my degree and I was looking for a Bank of America. The only Bank of America was in Anna. ANN, Jonesboro stands for Ain't No Ends Allowed. And they told me, the secretary tells me, here I am a professional NFL player, and she tells me that I'd better be back before dark. Don't get stuck out there at dark. I'm like, is this 1950 like? What are you talking about? That's the world we live in. So, I'm sorry if I'm making people uncomfortable by trying to shine a light on an issue. So, if I feel that way as a successful young man, imagine what an inner-city kid feels like, that he doesn't have any rights. Sports are bigger than just what happens on the field now. You may want to stick to sports, but in today's society, in today's world, there are other issues at play at the intersection of sports and culture. Like it or not, racial issues have become a part of sports coverage. Women's issues are, too, because of the systemic disrespect women get in the sports world. Talking about sports now pulls from places it never did, and that's a good thing. Sports are a major part of popular culture, and it is inevitable that pieces of the world outside the stadium and issues far more important than the score and stats are part of the conversation. It's about time WFAN has the right voices to speak about those sticky topics. Mixing a guy like Carlin, who is the closest to the Francesa mold in that he is a white, middle-aged man who can get loud, with a black former athlete in Scott and a woman in gray instantly creates the most diverse show in WFAN history. That is not a knock against Francesa or anyone else on the air at WFAN. It is simply a departure from the daytime lineup we've been accustomed to for years. And in today's world, it is a necessary and refreshing step to take.